Happy Friday from Spot On Weather. I'm meteorologist Matthew Euler, and welcome to today's video. And today I'm titling this video, Hop Aboard the Arctic Train. That train is going to be leaving its station in Canada and working its way southeastward towards the eastern United States. And it's going to make multiple stops as we head into late January, as we'll see multiple waves of Arctic air come down from Canada. All right, so let's go ahead and kick things off. We'll go ahead and break things down. For today, the main headlines will be, I'll first focus on the major eastern storm on Monday, the 17th of January, moving in then to a briefly milder weather time on Wednesday, 19 January, and then looking at a very cold pattern in late January for the eastern United States, mainly between the dates 21 to 28 January. And then we'll also take a look in today's video at the potential for upcoming winter storms in late January. So first things first, let's talk about this big storm system that everybody's been talking about, with good reason, of course, because it could have major impacts to millions across the eastern United States. The effects really kick in on this Sunday, the 16th of January, 2022, and they will last. The further north you get towards New England, these impacts will last into Monday, the 17th of January, 2022. So what we have on the left, by the way, these graphics are courtesy of the Tropical Tidbits website. So courteous of that website. All right, so looking first, we have an area of low pressure there on the left-hand chart. That's over basically north-central Georgia by Sunday morning, the 16th of January. And there's going to be a lot of heavy rain situated over Georgia, and then there'll be some ice and some mix of rain and snow as you head towards the northeast, towards parts of western North Carolina and southwestern Virginia. There also could be some wraparound snow on Sunday for parts of western Tennessee, Memphis included, on down actually through Mississippi. Believe it or not, they could see some wet snowflakes come Sunday morning. And the main reason, and let me go ahead and break out my tool again here so I can highlight some key points. The main reason is this Arctic high pressure system situated over Maine by Sunday morning. It's a 1031 millibar high. With the clockwise flow around this high pressure system, we're going to see lower thickness values and colder temperatures. Those colder temperatures are especially going to set up along the east side of the Appalachian Mountains, stretching from Virginia down into western North Carolina, western parts of South Carolina into northeast Georgia. And so that's a situation in the wintertime that's known as cold air damming, when you get cold air to descend down the eastern seaboard on the front side of these Arctic high pressure systems. And so the problem is this moisture, this storm system, and the moisture associated with it begin moving northeast by Sunday, and that colder, denser air is very stubborn to recede. And so initially what you get with this overrunning moisture, it falls into colder temperatures at the surface, resulting in potential ice for North Carolina and snow into parts of the mountains of North Carolina up into southwestern Virginia. Now, as we look here on the right-hand side, the storm system is a 996 millibar low pressure system by Sunday, the 16th of January in the afternoon time frame. We're looking early afternoon here on the right. And there's still a lot of heavy rain, basically along the coastal sections of South Carolina, North Carolina, up into southeast Virginia. And then there's a rain-snow line as the wind flows around this intense storm system or low pressure system. It's going to result in more of an easterly and southeasterly wind across northeast North Carolina into southeast Virginia. And that is going to allow milder ocean air to come in and change any potential wintry precip right over to rain fairly quickly. Now, with the cold air damming still in place, the cold air lingering across central Virginia into southwestern Virginia and parts of western North Carolina, you're going to see ice and some pretty good snow. And so the storm system ultimately, by the graphic on the left shows now, this would be Sunday evening, the 16th of January 2022, the storm system eventually moves to Norfolk, Virginia. It basically moves over Norfolk, and there's just a lot of rain associated with it. It could be moderate to heavy. We're looking at 1 to 2 inches of rainfall across parts of eastern North Carolina and southeast Virginia as the storm moves up the coast, with heavier snows on the backside of the storm system in the colder air. Graphic on the right shows that area of low pressure or storm system continuing to move northeastward, generally off of the just to the east of Long Island by early Monday morning, the 17th of January. So there's going to be a lot of rain, even all the way up into coastal New Jersey, coastal Connecticut, Rhode Island, into parts of eastern Massachusetts as a strong wind moves in off the ocean. There'll be a lot of heavier snow, however, across parts of western New York State, especially into Pennsylvania for Monday. And so it's going to be a snowy time in places like Rochester and Syracuse, New York, as well as Buffalo. And behind the storm system, we generally have these colder temperatures as the winds shift around to the northwest. So it is going to be an intense, fast-moving storm. It's going to be moving up the eastern seaboard from North Carolina to New England. Really kicking in, the effects of it will kick in on Sunday, the 16th of January, and then eventually impact New England over here on the right-hand graphic, impact New England on Monday morning, by Monday morning, the 17th of January. All right, so let's take a look from the storm. This is from the Weather Prediction Center showing the latest amounts of precipitation forecast. You'll notice the purple shading from Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina. A little bit of a purple shading there into southeastern Virginia. And that is generally 1.5, between 1.5 and 2 inches of rain is forecast in those particular areas. And then if you look at the snowfall map here on the right-hand side, you know, this storm system, it really produces a nice swath of snow from southwestern Minnesota into Iowa, into parts of northeastern Missouri, where they could see 4 to 8 inches. And then as that storm digs down with the upper level trough digging down as well and comes up the east coast, you're going to see amounts in parts of western North Carolina for snow. Snow amounts generally on the order of 1 foot, maybe slightly locally higher amounts into western North Carolina and southwest Virginia as well. And so heaviest snow as it moves up the coast then hits central and eastern PA on up to western New York State. Though that seems to be the sweet spot if you like snow, and you're going to get a lot of it from the system. And then also when you get an intense storm system in the wintertime, you generally get a lot of gusty winds. And this is definitely the case right now for this weekend. This particular chart shows the wind speeds in knots at 10 meters, just above the surface. And this is for overnight Sunday night. And it's showing the yellow colors here indicating winds on the order of 34 to 40 knots. Now, these are sustained winds. This doesn't include the wind gusts. So wind gusts could easily exceed 50 knots in this particular area off of the mid-Atlantic coast come overnight Sunday night. But just goes to show you how much wind energy is going to be over the western Atlantic. And, of course, that's going to equate to some extremely high and rough seas generally along this particular area off the western Atlantic, off the east coast. All right, so now, once this storm passes by to the north, now it's time to really dig into, what lies beyond this weekend storm. And we're going to start things off by taking a look. This is the Tuesday afternoon, the 18th of January forecast. On the right is the Wednesday, the January 19th forecast. So we got 18 January left, 19 January on the right. And generally what we have is a 1023 millibar high settling in across the mid-Atlantic. Generally cold temperatures from the mid-Atlantic, Virginia northward to New England. Of course, the further north you go into New England, the much colder the air mass becomes behind the departing storm. And so we got a nice northwesterly wind flow along the eastern seaboard. And then looking at Wednesday, the 19th of January, we have a wave of low pressure that is developing over Arkansas. And you notice this green shading that indicates rain stretching from northern Mississippi up through western Tennessee, western Kentucky, right along the Ohio River, parts of southern Indiana and southern Ohio. But pay attention to these blue lines here. These are your thickness lines. These are your colder, lower thickness lines. And what's happening is we have a 1048 millibar high, which is situated over Alberta, Canada, and it's going to allow for a major outbreak of Arctic air. This is a frontal system that's setting up ahead of this Arctic air, which is reloading up here over the upper Midwest. Going to be some very cold temperatures by Wednesday, the 19th of January, across the northern plains, the Dakotas, Minnesota, into Wisconsin. So pay attention to this as we go through this video. All right, so the Arctic front, it's going to crash through southeast Virginia and the mid-Atlantic about late on Thursday, the 20th of January. So we'll have a milder day across the mid-Atlantic on Wednesday, the 19th. Temperatures will get up to the mid to upper 50s. But then come Thursday, the 20th, by late Thursday, the 20th, this is actually Thursday evening, next Thursday evening, the 20th of January, 20th of January, there's a 1045 millibar high situated over Iowa. And on the front side of that high, the Arctic freezer, the Arctic train, is coming south. And these thicknesses are just crashing. There's a strong northerly wind flow directly from the Arctic, from Canada down south into the United States. So by Friday morning, this is Friday morning on the right, the 21st of January, thicknesses have definitely crashed across the mid-Atlantic. Very cold temperatures anywhere from the Midwest, Iowa, Missouri, all the way to the East Coast. And there's even a potential, some of the models are hinting at snow across southwest Texas, just showing you how cold the air is, how far south the Arctic air is getting, all the way down to central Texas by this point. And so, of course, this is a long ways out. So, of course, this is going to change in the model runs. But this is really intriguing for those living in southwestern Texas. Now, there is a difference, if we get back to the mid-Atlantic here in the discussion, there is a difference between the models regarding the precipitation type on Thursday, the 20th of January. So we know there's going to be a strong Arctic cold front moving through. And this particular graphic is a GFS forecast for Thursday. This is the Canadian model for Friday morning. And then the bottom one here, this is the European operational model. And this is for Thursday afternoon. Okay, so Thursday afternoon GFS, Thursday afternoon European, and I'm just showing you these charts to compare. So for example, the European model shows a little bit of precipitation lingering behind the Arctic frontal passage. So the colder air is building into the area from the north and northwest, and it still shows a little bit of light precipitation behind the cold front, the Arctic front. And so that's indicating a little bit of light snow accumulation across parts of southeastern Virginia on Thursday afternoon, the 20th. Meanwhile, the GFS keeps all the moisture out ahead of the Arctic front. So you notice in the milder temperatures, you get more of a rain, just some rain showers prior to frontal passage with the GFS. And then the Canadian model, what's interesting about the Canadian model this morning is it has actually a stronger storm system developing along this Arctic boundary. It starts off the low pressure starts off in Georgia and is forecast to move northeastward just off the mid-Atlantic coast by the 22nd. But it's showing this much more stronger on the Canadian model for the end of next week. So that'll be something to just keep an eye on. Right now, we're still sitting 7 days out from this. All right, now, look at this pattern. I mean, if you really like winter weather in the eastern United States, this is just really amazing. And we have agreement with multiple models on this. This isn't just one model showing this, the other model showing warmer air in the east. Pretty much all the models are agreeing with this, including the ensembles, operational ensemble models as well. So this is the forecast. This is the European forecast on the left, this graphic. This is the GFS, actually this is the Canadian model on the right. So European versus Canadian, and no matter how you slice this, showing this deep trough that is just digging in. Now these dates, this time period is the 23rd of January. So this would be Sunday the 23rd of January. So we get our first wave of Arctic air coming in late Thursday, the 20th of January. And that's another wave of Arctic air comes in on the 23rd, late on the 23rd of January. So the European, these thicknesses are just really crashing. And the other interesting thing about the European, and I'll talk about this here in a minute with storm potentials, but what we're looking at on the European model is a stronger coastal low next Sunday, the 23rd of January. So this is going to have to be watched. I'll talk more about it in my final thoughts. So stronger system with the European model between the 23rd and 24th of January, something to keep an eye on. Meanwhile, the Canadian model here just shows a 1043 millibar high over Missouri, just strong northerly wind straight from the north. 516 decameter thickness just south of the Virginia line there is just, and the chill goes all the way down to the Gulf Coast, by the way, all the way down to Louisiana, Mississippi, South Alabama, and South Georgia. So this is going to be an interesting pattern to watch. Moving on now, a little bit later in time. Now this is the GFS model. These both are GFS models here on this slide. Generally showing you again the extent of the cold. This is Sunday afternoon, 23 January. Just showing this strong northwesterly wind flow, just dumping Arctic chill all the way down into the southeastern U.S., the mid-Atlantic. New England's just going to be shivering up there. And then the graphic on the right shows Monday morning, the 24th of January. 510 decameter thickness down into central Virginia, and 540 decameter thickness line all the way down to South Georgia. And so really looking interesting. The GFS forecast on this slide, both of these are GFS graphics for the forecast. Now this is showing the 25th of January, and we're still seeing that cold Arctic air right along the East Coast. And then this graphic on the right would be the forecast for 28 January. This is Friday, 28 January 2022, showing another wave of very cold Arctic air digging down into the eastern U.S. And so we'll have to wait to see about the 28th of January, this particular Arctic outbreak. I'm a little more leery about that, being that we're so far out into the distant future. But I tell you, it's looking very cold. The pattern's looking very cold. Now let's take a look at the CFS, the Climate Forecast System version 2 forecast. These are temperature anomalies in degrees Celsius. This left graphic represents a period between 19 and 29 January. Green coloring indicates the coldest temperatures. Okay, the oranges shading indicate above normal temperatures. Look at the maroon shading over Alaska, very above normal, very mild up there. But you get very cold air coming down especially east of the Mississippi River. And then the graphic on the right shows the CFS forecast for temperature anomalies between 24 January and 3 February, still showing a lingering cold from the upper Midwest to the eastern seaboard. So we'll have to watch these trends. The CFS, I've noticed it tends to have a warm bias, so this is really impressive for the CFS to be showing this cold. But in general, it's just a phenomenal pattern for the eastern U.S. for winter. Looking at just some of the graphics here on the left, and it comes down to simple laws of science here. So whenever something goes up, it has to go down. So when something goes up, something else has to come down. And that's exactly what we're looking at in the pattern. This is a late January upper level 500 millibar chart here on the left. And the arrows just indicate how the heights are building over Canada into Alaska and Western Canada. And downstream of that upper level ridging and the building heights, we get this deep trough from the Arctic all the way down into the eastern U.S. And some people will refer to this pattern as a grand planetary wave, where you have a direct connection from the Arctic straight down the eastern U.S. And winds are pretty much in the upper levels blowing from north to south. And you'll notice this as well. So we have height rises and upper level ridge, strong one over building into Alaska. And then we get this upper level ridge kind of pivoting its way towards just to the east of Greenland. So these are important features to keep an eye on. Looking at the Jeff's 500 height anomalies for, this would be for 21 January, okay? I just wanted to really for you to take note of this amazing pattern. A positive Pacific North American pattern with these strong height rises into Alaska and Western Canada, and you get this nice sharp ridge, highly amplified in nature, and then you get this, just look at this connection to the Arctic up here from, where my red dot is all the way down to the mid-Atlantic. I mean, this is like straight shot from up north with very cold temperatures. Moving ahead now, looking at the ensembles for the European. So this was a GFS ensemble forecasting system. Now let's take a look at the EPS and see what it shows. Very similar pattern. You get a upper level ridge, a positive Pacific North American PNA pattern, and then you get this just deep trough over the eastern United States, and the connection is just there. This is 24 January on the left, showing the connection from the Arctic all the way, that blue coloring from the Arctic, all the way down to the mid-Atlantic and southeast. And look at the green coloring here. This is anomalously low upper-level heights based on climatology. Looking at the right-hand graphic here on the EPS ensemble, this would be for Tuesday, 25 January, and you can just see that week of 24, 25 January looks very cold. Frigid temperatures descending from eastern Canada, the Arctic area, down to the eastern U.S. And just again, this is the latest CFS V2. This is the average or mean 2 meter temperature anomaly in degrees Celsius. I'm laughing because this is very rare to see, this sharp of anomalies. So the lighter purple shading, that indicates the greatest temperature anomaly, coldest temperatures, generally on the orders of 9 degrees Celsius below normal from Wisconsin into Indiana, Ohio, down into the mid-Atlantic. But look at the sharp dividing line here, okay? This is the latest CFS, the midday CFS, version that just came out. Look at the warmth over the western United States. These are above normal heights. This is going to be where your warmest temperature is going to be located. And of course, this is where the coldest air is going to be located. So just, again, just amazing. Here is a look at the GFS temperature anomalies in degrees Celsius over the period. The upper left graphic here, we start with 21 January, showing the blues and purples. These are the anomaly. The key shows the anomalies over here on the right of each graphic. This particular graphic is for late 23 January, that Sunday, showing another wave of Arctic air coming down in the east. The graphic here on the upper right shows Monday afternoon, 24 January. I mean, look at this cold. It's really locked in. Midwest to the East Coast, up to New England. And then the bottom left here shows the temperature anomalies for Tuesday morning, 25 January. Still very, very bitterly cold. Bottom middle here shows temperature anomalies in the GFS model for Friday morning, the 28th of January. The GFS is showing another wave of cold Arctic air descending from the upper Midwest to the East Coast. So by the time we get to the 29th of January, the coldest temperatures reside from the Mid-Atlantic to New England. So again, just phenomenal. Phenomenal pattern, lots of cold in the east, upper level ridge, and milder temperatures across the west. Now, I wanted to throw in today's video some of the GFS forecast soundings for the Norfolk, Virginia area, generally with the different Arctic outbreaks, the multiple waves of Arctic air that will come into the area. Generally showing you the graphic here on the upper left is for the morning of January 21st, showing an air temperature of 26 degrees, dew point of 14 Fahrenheit. The middle here, upper middle, shows the forecast sounding for, this would be for late the evening of the 23rd, Sunday the 23rd of January, showing a temperature again of 26 and now a dew point in the single digits, right around 9 degrees Fahrenheit. The upper right-hand graphic, this is for, this would be Monday, 24 January in the afternoon, showing a temperature of 29 degrees for a high, with a dew point at 2 degrees Fahrenheit. Bottom left shows the forecast temperature for, this would be January 28th during the afternoon hours, showing a temperature of 34 for a high. And then the bottom right, this would be well out into the future. This would be late on the 29th of January, overnight on the 29th, showing a air temperature of 27 degrees. Okay, so what I wanted really to point out is just the fact that this is going to be multiple waves of Arctic air. It's going to be, if we see milder temperatures, it's going to be very brief between each of these surges of cold air. And also, if you look at the red line on these particular forecast soundings, that represents your air temperature with height in the vertical, and the green line represents your dew point, okay, with height. And so what happens is when the red and the green lines are together, like right here at this point in the sounding, that indicates we have saturation. You're usually going to have some type of clouds. When the farther apart the green and the red lines are in each of these soundings, the drier the air mass. Okay, so if you look at this particular sounding for the late on the 23rd of January, you have a large separation in the mid-levels of the atmosphere between the dew point, the green line, and that temperature line, the red line. So this would indicate very dry conditions in the middle levels of the atmosphere. All right, so now let's take a look at the European temperature anomalies. I'm highlighting two specific shots of Arctic air on the European model. The first one is on the morning of the 21st, next Friday, 21 January, showing these temperature departures on the order of 20 to 30 degrees Fahrenheit below normal is the purple shading on this graphic. So just phenomenally below normal temperatures, really cold. And on the graphic on the right, I show the temperature anomalies of the European model for late. This would be late on Sunday the 23rd, that next wave of Arctic air. It doesn't quite reach the eastern seaboard yet, but it will over time. And this particular graphic shows the coldest departures from normal, the coldest air and the greatest departures from normal across the upper Midwest on the late on the 23rd. All right, so in addition to the cold, let's talk about these winter storm threats. Okay, now one of the biggest fears you always have with such cold air coming down from the far north into the eastern United States, one of the biggest fears you have if you like to see a good snowstorm is it's going to just be too dry, right? The Arctic air is so dense and heavy and it's so dry. And so what you fear is you don't get any kind of storm activity, right? Because you get these bubble high pressure systems to kind of descend from Canada right on down, following the thickness gradient all the way southeast and right to the eastern seaboard. And then these high pressure systems are very stable. They're associated with very cold and dry air. So what you're looking for to try to get a winter storm when you have these repetitive deep troughs and these Arctic outbreaks is you're looking for the time period before the Arctic front makes its way into the area. All right, so that would be an example right here on the left for Saturday morning, the 22nd of January. You'll see an area of low pressure off the Carolina coast. You got a little bit of wintry precip on the north side of that into the Carolinas. Okay, this would be an example of that, where you get this baroclinic zone just situated over the eastern seaboard, and then you get the colder Arctic air that eventually pushes this offshore, and if there's a storm that develops, it goes well offshore. You get the cold and dry conditions to build in. Right, but so basically along the leading edge of Arctic fronts, as well as a transition period between Arctic waves, that's when you're going to look for the greatest thermal gradient, the greatest thickness gradient, and that's going to be the necessary ingredients to create a storm. So this is before the Arctic front comes in on the 22nd. We could see a potential storm. This is the GFS model. And then the right-hand side is also GFS. Now this is showing a storm system further to the north, with a strong frontal boundary extending to the Gulf Coast by the Wednesday morning, the 26th of January, okay? But there is an area of low pressure here over the northern Gulf, all right? So just a couple thoughts. GFS is basically showing us two potential winter storms between 22 and 28 January, and this has to do with the timing, right, of being on that leading edge, development of a storm along the leading edge of the Arctic front. The Canadian winter storm threats, these are the Canadian models, what it looks like, the most recent ones as of this morning, generally showing another storm, a similar threat time frame. If you look at the GFS here on the left showing a early morning on the 22nd of January. Canadian is showing a little bit earlier timing with that. Generally, this is that time period around, this would be the evening of the 20th, next Thursday night. And so 21st is on the left, and then the 22nd is on the right. So you notice how this storm starts really going. It's tapping into this huge temperature gradient between the warmer Gulf Stream and the much colder Arctic air to the northwest. And right along that boundary, that baroclinic zone, that's where you're going to get your wave of low pressure to develop. And then generally, this low pressure is much stronger for the 21st to 22nd than the GFS model is indicating. Okay? So according to the Canadian model, we have one primary winter storm threat, the 21st and 22nd, late next week. Looking at the European winter storm threats, looking like a weaker winter storm threat on the 20th when we have that first wave of Arctic air come down the Arctic front, pass through the area. But a more significant threat looms around the 23rd of January. Now, this is according to the overnight European run. This is the 0Z 14 January European model run, okay? So this is going to change, okay? Because this is 234 hours out into the future. But I've seen this signature show up. It was on the European model as well, midday yesterday, of some sort of storm system developing off the southeast coast. And these are the ones that can really bomb out, especially when you get a trough this deep. You get this huge thermal contrast between, again, the air over that warmer Gulf Stream over the Western Atlantic and this Arctic air just spilling in. And so you got to watch this. This will be interesting to see what happens over time, and we'll keep following that. Keep monitoring the situation. All right, so now let's take a look at the Teleconnections Forecast. Generally showing for the Arctic Oscillation AO, generally we've been pretty negative, generally from late December to the present time, and the AO forecast is to remain negative mainly. It may briefly go neutral, but in general we're looking at a negative AO tendency. For the EPO, Eastern Pacific Oscillation Forecast, showing a negative trend to it between 15 and 19 January, slight bump up, closer to neutral, and then back down negative after 21 January. And then this is a big one to me, is the Pacific North American pattern, the PNA forecast, showing a positive trend to the PNA today on the 14th of January, trending neutral, and then going back positive again after the 21st. Now this is a big difference. This is a big difference in the forecast in the longer range, because earlier this week it was showing a trend for the PNA to crash negative again, but that now is no longer the case. And as long as the PNA remains positive, you get the upper level ridge and the higher heights over the west. That usually results in a trough either over the Midwestern U.S., depending on the wavelength. You have a trough over the Midwestern U.S. or the Eastern Seaboard. So that's something to keep an eye on. As far as the Madden Julian Oscillation Forecast, the MJO forecast, by the way, this graphic is courtesy of Kyle McRitchie. Generally showing a pretty good agreement in the models here. 119 to 129. The MJO is in phase 1, right? And rotating in phase 1 will definitely be more indicative of a colder and generally more favorable for a stormy pattern too along the eastern U.S. when we get to phase 1, and that's exactly what the CFS model is forecasting. Now, over time, it may rotate into phase 2 and phase 3, and there are signs that February might actually be a milder time period. So this is going, it's definitely something to keep an eye on. As far as the stratospheric polar vortex forecast, you may be reading some of the discussions by Dr. Judah Cohen of AER. In general, we have a elongated or stretched. See how these white lines are more of a stretched oval shape? This is today, right now for the polar vortex, showing a stretched or rubber band effect of it. And then over here on the right, I show a forecast for Sunday, the 23rd of January, where we get one of those really strong Arctic outbreaks in the east. And again, it's very stretched out. So there's an elongation or a stretching effect of the polar vortex, with the coldest air expected to pivot towards the eastern Canada and eastern U.S. In late January. So we've seen partial little arms or lobes of the polar vortex kind of pivot in to eastern Canada at times over the last week or so, and this tendency is expected to continue. So here are my final thoughts on today's video. We're expecting rain and wind along the mid-Atlantic coast with a strong storm system passing through the area starting on Sunday, the 16th of January, and then ultimately things will dry out by Monday, the 17th of January. Now, further up into New England, you're going to have greater impacts on Monday, for sure Monday morning, the 17th of January. A very cold weather pattern is taking shape, generally between 21 and 28 January for the eastern U.S. We're going to see multiple shots or waves of this Arctic air that's going to descend all the way down from eastern Canada into the eastern U.S. Thirdly, we're looking at coldest temperatures. I wanted to break this out. As of right now, based on today's model guidance, the coldest temperatures will be on the 21st and 22nd of January, and then the 24th and 25th of January, where we could see temperature readings in some parts of the eastern U.S. on the order of 20 to 25 degrees Fahrenheit below normal. The upper level pattern is forecasting strong height rises in Alaska, western Canada, and the western U.S., with strong height falls over the eastern U.S. This is going to result in above normal temperatures and dry conditions for the western U.S. and below normal temperatures, and we could see multiple storm threats between 21 and 28 January. And again, that's associated with that positive Pacific North American pattern. We will see these stretched or elongated polar vortex lobes. They'll occasionally pivot or move into eastern Canada in late January. That will accentuate and reinforce the colder temperatures across the eastern U.S. And again, the biggest storm threats right now, the way we see it, are 20 to 22 January and then 24 to 27 January for the eastern U.S. Now, the main questions, of course, these are always the main questions. Will the colder air phase, will it come down and meet up with a southern stream system like the European model is showing? When you see these stronger, intense systems off the southeast coast, that's generally saying that the northern stream energy is going to phase with the southern stream energy, and that creates a more significant storm system. So will that occur as the European model is indicating? If so, we could see a significant East Coast winter storm the third week of January. Now, if the colder northern stream energy and the coldest temps are too far off to the northwest, and we have two separate pieces of energy, then we could see another case of cold rain along the mid-Atlantic coast, to where we're in a moderating time period of temperatures, and we get colder rain. Now, if the colder northern stream energy and the coldest temps do meet up, with abundant moisture being provided from the subtropical jet stream, we could definitely see a lot more wintry precipitation for the mid-Atlantic up the East Coast. I'm targeting, again, 21 to 28 January for that to occur. So there's a lot of interesting things going on in the weather world. This wraps my video up for today. I hope you enjoyed this update on the forecast from Spot On Weather. We are Spot On Weather, and we definitely appreciate your subscription to our YouTube channel, as well as following us on the Spot On Weather Weebly website. So check it out. I do updates regularly on the Spot On Weather Weebly website, and we'll keep our eyes on the weather models and see how things unfold between now and the end of January for sure. And if there's any significant winter storm threats, we will definitely put a new video out, a special video out for those. All right, that wraps things up today. Spot On Weather, where we believe in one thing. We believe in accuracy through precision, through detailed analysis. Everybody have a great Friday. Take care. And if you live in the eastern U.S., make sure you get that heavy coat. Make sure you have that heavy coat handy because it looks pretty cold in late January. All right, everybody. Take care and God bless.